Oh, God. Getting off on some good energy. Also, my nose is all fucking blocked up for some reason. Like, not like my nose, but like, you know, it's like in your throat, kind of like right at the roof of your mouth, and it's like in your nose and...
Peanut butter jaw.
Yeah.
Peanut butter jaw's over here.
They call me Rich Peanut Butter Jaws. Welcome to the Trashcats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today we have a cosmic need for justice. Time to farm some karma.
Fuck yeah, dude. Karma points. This is gonna be a wild one. This was one that I feel like was on the fringe. It's like, can we do this?
Can we do this in an easily allotted time
and make it out with our integrity?
Yeah.
How was your week, man?
It's been good. I've still been working through the kidney stone. I think it's all gone now.
That's like good karma paying off.
Yeah, that's all those good deeds I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You would think I wouldn't get kidney stones at all, but you know. Well,
it's because of all the kidney stones you removed from other people that you're having them removed from you, because that's how karma works.
Yeah, it's all the kidney stones. I'm doing my holistic medicine, my Reiki medicines.
Ooh, Reiki, that's a funny one.
Yeah, that's a real interesting.
I'm not touching you.
Exactly. Do you feel it? I'm not even touching you. Can you feel it? You're healed. That'll be $500.
It's $500, you fucking idiot. Pay up.
We only take cash. If you pay with credit card, you have to tip on my Square reader.
So, feeling better. Chill week?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. How about you?
Lame week, but doing fine. Finally finished a piece of art today, which is exciting. The trick to finishing that piece, not the double, but I had to add the triple rainbow. I couldn't see it at first.
Triple rainbow.
You think 2 rainbows? Might be overdoing it until you find the 3rd rainbow. What about honorable mentions? You got anything?
Of course I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. And I got maxed out karma stats. I got so many karma points. I don't even need to share or honor someone else's art. We're just going to get
we're going to honor ourselves with all of our karma. Our throne of karma.
I get good karma by doing nice things for myself. I feel like we're totally discrediting our podcast.
Yeah. Oh, just now? Not the 100 plus previous episodes? Just now?
Quote, "You harm yourself as dust thrown against the wind comes back to the thrower." End quote.
Karma in Sanskrit means an action, work, or deed and its effect or consequences. In Indian religions, at its most simple, karma specifically refers to a principle of cause and effect, often descriptively called the principle of karma, wherein intent and actions of an individual, the cause, influence the future of that individual, the effect. Good intent and good deeds contribute to good karma, while bad intent and bad deeds contribute to bad karma.
Karma itself is popularly and somewhat erroneously understood as a cycle of cause and effect, whereas it could or should be looked at more as the consequence of good and bad actions. This requires an understanding of good and bad. One of the interpretations of karma that helped change my understanding was that good and bad is not necessarily a direct link to morality, but instead that the definition of good is the result of selflessness, and that bad is the result of ego, meaning actions for self are bad and that actions for others are good.
The concept of karma is closely associated with the idea of rebirth in many schools of Indian religions, particularly Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, as well as Taoism. In these schools, karma in the present affects one's future in the current life, as well as the nature and quality of future lives, one's samsara.
This concept has also been adopted in Western popular culture, in which the events which happen after a person's actions may be considered natural consequences.
You can explain karma by contrasting with the Sanskrit word kriya. Whereas kriya is the activity along with the steps and effort in action, karma is the executed action as a consequence of that activity, as well as the intention of the actor behind an executed action or planned action, described by some scholars as metaphysical residue left in the actor.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
term a lot. Metaphysical residue. That's nice. It's like dust in the Golden Compass, a bit. Difficulty in arriving at a definition of karma arises because of the diversity of views among the schools of Hinduism. Some, for example, consider karma and rebirth linked and simultaneously essential. Some consider karma, but not rebirth, to be essential, and a few discuss and conclude karma and rebirth to be flawed fiction. Buddhism and Jainism have their own karma precepts.
Thus, karma has not one, but multiple definitions in different meanings. It is a concept whose meaning, importance, and scope varies between the various traditions that originated in India, and various schools in each of these traditions. Furthermore, there is an ongoing debate regarding whether karma is a theory, a model, a paradigm, a metaphor, or a metaphysical stance.
This is Satanism all over again.
Yeah.
It's like, is it a philosophy? Is it it means so many different things to different people. That's kind of part of the fun, though. It gets like both distorted and romanticized because you can kind of bend it to be what you want it to be, especially as someone from the West, because it's not inherent to our belief system. So
right.
You can kind of like mysticize it. And not that that's good, but I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Karma also refers to a conceptual principle that originated in India, often descriptively called the principle of karma, and sometimes the karma theory or law of karma.
In the context of theory, karma is complex and difficult to define. Different schools of Indology derive different definitions for the concept from ancient Indian texts. Some Indologists include the definition in the present circumstances of an individual with reference to his or her actions in the past.
These actions may be those in the person's current life, or in some schools of Indian traditions, possibly actions in their past lives. Furthermore, the consequences may result in the current life or a person's future lives. The laws of karma operate independent of any deity or any process of divine judgment.
That's something I always found cool about the idea of karma, because it doesn't matter what God you believe in, it's just different from that. It's outside of divinity. It looked at in a lot of ways like it's just a universal, like a nature law kind of thing. Like
a gravity. It's almost if you like tore the theory of sin from Catholicism or whatever. I kind of like, I like when those things are separate from the belief structure itself. It makes it feel like bigger.
Yeah, exactly. It's more, it's like, we'll get into it more, but like the Jainism especially, it's like, this is more important than the gods. This is separate.
Yeah, it's interesting. A common theme to theories of karma is its principle of causality. Karma as action and reaction. If we show goodness, we will reap goodness. This relationship between karma and causality is a central motif in all schools of Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain thought.
One of the earliest associations of karma to causality occurs in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of Hinduism. It states, "Now as a man is like this or like that. According as he acts and according as he behaves, so will he be. A man of good acts will become good. A man of bad acts, bad. He becomes pure by pure deeds, bad by bad deeds." And here they say that a person consists of desires. As he is desire, so is his will. And as is his will, so is his deed. And whatever deed he does, that he will reap.
This ancient text is a key scripture in the religion of Hinduism from the 7th century BCE and includes passages on metaphysics, ethics, and a yearning for knowledge that influenced various Indian religions, as well as ancient and medieval scholars.
The theory of karma as causation holds that 1. Executed actions of an individual affects the individual in the life he or she lives, and 2. The intentions of an individual affects the individual in the life he or she lives. Disinterested actions or unintentional actions do not have the same positive and negative karmic effect as interested and intentional actions.
I find that really interesting how intention plays such a big part, because that's something we don't really tie into a lot of Western philosophy and religion. It seems like the action itself is always paramount to what a person's intentions are.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we included a lot in, like, not so much philosophy, I guess, but in, like, morality. Like, if someone like fucks ethics. Up and it's like, but they had their heart in the right place thing. It's like they might have dropped the ball or did something stupid, but like they had good intention.
Because there's always that conversation of like, oh, hell is paved with good intentions. And I feel like that's so superficial because I don't feel like hell would be paved with good intentions. It would be our true, most honest, true intentions. I don't think you can do a bad thing if your intentions were truly right or good.
That's the one of those things that they tell you to keep you from, like, oh, you can, but if you sin with good intentions, then it's okay. And it's like, no, you can't do that. That's bonus points. Yeah. You can't do that because, you can, like someone told me, like, with dieting and stuff, they're like, saying, anything in moderation, like, well, moderation leads to, over, excess. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, no, just, it's called moderation.
Have to.
No, exactly. Like, you're making it fucked up in your head because you're an idiot, but okay.
Yeah, that's something that's so different. Like, with addiction stuff, like with some people you can get away with a lot, and then other people, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I find, I think, so interesting about intention is it's like true intention is something that can't be faked. It can't be, I don't know, maybe like post hoc you can rationalize intentions differently and like try to trick yourself into believing your intentions may have been different than what they were. But when you have to like look yourself in the mirror type of thing, the intention is, I feel like there's always like such a strong like truth.
Mm-hmm. Like, do you lose karma points, or do you get bad karma if you pull the lever in a trolley problem?
It depends on what your intention was. Like, let's say you kill more people and don't save anyone, right? Like, you pulled the wrong lever, just objectively the wrong lever, but your intention was you thought it was going to save everyone. Then you still did the right thing, in my opinion, or in my fact.
Yeah.
It is also important to note that karma is not solely unique to Eastern religions. We can see philosophical overlap from the Egyptian weighing of the heart all the way to Christianity. In Christianity, karmic destiny plays out in the judgment upon death, whether Peter let you into the gates of heaven or you burn forever in hell. In the Jewish faith, karma is expressed as, I'm trying my best, Medea, Knicht Medea, translated
There's
as...
no way that's what that's
not, yeah.
There's no way
Jewish stuff is hard to pronounce, man. That's wild.
Hebrew is a tough language for typical American tongue.
The more popular take of it is found in the modern phrase, what goes around comes around, which is always such a fucking... Anytime you hear someone say that, they're saying something really fucking annoying.
Don't you mean what's all around comes around?
I hate it so much. There is such a persuasive belief at a deep, intuitive level in karma that even the ancient Greeks, who believed that we're all bound to a predetermined fate that just needs to be manifested, also managed to believe in a type of karma where the actions of a person were eventually visited upon them.
In Indian philosophy, the consequence or effects of one's karma can be described in two forms, phala and samskara. A phala, meaning fruit or result, is the visible or invisible effect that is typically immediate or within the current life. In contrast, a samskara is an invisible effect, produced inside the actor because of the karma, transforming the agent and affecting his or her ability to be happy or unhappy in their current and future lives. The theory of karma is often presented in the context of samskaras.
In the late 1900s, it was suggested that karmic principles can also be understood as principles of psychology and habit. Karma seeds habits, and habits create the nature of man. Karma also seeds self-perception, and perception influences how one experiences life events. Both habits and self-perception affect the course of one's life.
Breaking bad habits is not easy. It requires conscious karmic effort. Thus, psyche and habit link karma to causality in ancient Indian literature. The idea of karma may be compared to the notion of a person's character, as both are an assessment of the person and determined by that person's habitual thinking and acting.
So I want to say this before we get too much farther. As I'm reading this, I have such mixed feelings, right? Mm-hmm. Because I find it feels like reading like a guide on magic or like a Crowley breakdown or some shit. Like
yeah.
It feels like ancient Eastern magic with a K. Like these philosophy principles, and if you focus energy, you can manipulate it to become the grand wizard. It's
yeah, I mean, that's the shit that this is the kind of thing that's based on.
Definitely.
For sure.
But it's so appealing in one sense, and it also feels like just a phony offshoot of religion in the other. Like, yeah.
Well, you know, the thing that probably appeals to you, it's probably the same thing that appeals to me, of like, it doesn't beat you down for being a person. It beats you down for being a bad person or being a dick. I think the idea is that it's like, if you act good and just like, you're prone to do, then you're fine. You're good.
I agree, but I feel like even more than that, it tells us our actions matter.
True.
Like it gives a carrot and a stick. Everything you do matters. And I think that gives a lot of people purpose in meaninglessness. Mm-hmm. All the small things matter if you funnel it into something like karma or any external energy system.
I think it also gives the sense of accountability. Yeah. In a good way.
Cosmic justice.
Yeah.
So you left off people's habits, and these hardwired mental patterns inside our head shape the way we respond emotionally to others, the way we perceive events, and whether we view the world and others as basically good or inherently flawed. These values guide our choices and determine our decisions. They directly guide our actions. Bad choices and poor decisions tend to be repeated and accumulate friction. The more you travel the same routes in a dark forest of the mind, the easier it is to find your path. This is basically the concept of neuroplasticity, cognitive behavior therapy, and general modification of brain function. And in that sense, I like it, that you're giving your brain positive reinforcement for doing the right thing. Or to hardwire those dark paths in the forest. I like that. It's intriguing.
I agree. It has also been suggested that the theories of karma are an ethical theory. This is so because the ancient scholars of India linked intent and actual action to the merit, reward, demerit, and punishment. A karma theory considers not only the action, but also the actor's intentions, attitude, and desires before and during the action. Another common theme of karma theories is the concept of reincarnation or the cycle of rebirths. Rebirth, or samsara, is the concept that all life forms go through a cycle of reincarnation, that is, a series of births and rebirths. The rebirths and consequent life may be in a different realm, condition, or form.
The karma theory suggests that the realm, condition, and form depends on the quality and quantity of karma. In schools that believe in rebirth, every living being's soul transmigrates or recycles after death, carrying the seeds of karmic impulses from life just completed into another life and a lifetime of karmas. This cycle continues indefinitely, except for those who consciously break this cycle by reaching moksha, or liberation. Those who break the cycle reach the realm of the gods. Those who don't continue in the cycle.
The concept has been intensely debated in ancient literature of India, with different schools of Indian religions considering the relevance of rebirth as either essential or secondary or a necessary fiction. In Hinduism, the concept of karma developed and evolved over centuries. The earliest Upanishads began with the question about how and why man is born, and what happens after death. As answers to the latter, the early theories in these ancient Sanskrit documents include the five-fire doctrine, the cyclic path of the fathers, and the cycle-transcending path of the gods.
Those who do superficial rituals and seek material gain travel the way of their fathers and recycle back into another life. But those who renounce these and go into the forest and pursue spiritual knowledge were claimed to climb into a higher path of the gods. It is those who break the cycle that are not reborn.
These ideas of causality and essential elements of the theory of karma were being recited in folk stories. For example,
as a man himself sows, so he himself reaps. No man inherits the good or evil act of another man. The fruit is the same quality as the action. I think that is beautiful and so terribly flawed.
Yeah.
No man inherits the good or evil actions of another man. That's
I think in that one there is a lot of debate specifically of like, if your ancestors did bad things, that you had to work off that karma.
Well, even just the simple, like, what do you call slavery? What do you call being born into bondage or tyranny of another person? I feel like it would be naive to. I understand the idea of like the son should not have the sins of his father type deal, but yeah, I don't know. I like reading things like this. Like it feels like you're reading something powerful, right? Like it's almost like reading the Bible, where you feel like, oh my God, and then like if you give it any second thought, it crumbles. It's
about that flowery kind of poetic stanzas and framing.
It's confidence reading. I feel like most religious or a lot of philosophy stuff too. It's if you read it confidently, it's powerful.
Yeah. As a man himself sows, so he himself reaps.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
What do you say to the factory worker who works 80 hours a week and doesn't get shit?
You're not sowing enough to reap.
You're not sowing right, son.
In the 2nd century CE, Hindu scholars published the question, is the course of a person's life already destined, or can human effort shape one's life? They determined that the future is both a function of current human effort derived from free will and past human actions that set the circumstances.
Quote, happiness comes due to good actions. Suffering results from evil actions. By actions, all things are obtained. By inaction, nothing whatsoever is enjoyed. If one's action bore no fruit, then everything would be of no avail. If the world worked from fate alone, it would be neutralized. End quote. The state of satisfaction and dissatisfaction are always relative in value to each other. Each moment of consciousness that we experience is conditioned by the previous moments, and the sum of our previous experience is the cause of each subsequent moment of our experience. Our current actions will determine the condition of our future. In this sense, we control our fate. Quote, it is neither God's injustice nor the demonic mischief that we face evil. Our suffering is due to our own actions. End quote.
It's a really good line.
I like that the concept of us controlling fate is not about the specific choices we make, but more the sum of the choices we make affecting the condition of our life that determines our fate. I can kind of get with that a lot more than we have a set fate or destiny, but more that we're controlling it by the sum of our decisions.
Yeah. Over time, various schools of Hinduism developed many different definitions of karma, some making karma appear quite deterministic, while others make room for free will and moral agency. Among the 6 most studied schools of Hinduism, the theory of karma evolved in different ways, as their respective scholars reasoned and attempted to address the internal inconsistencies, implications, and issues of the karma doctrine.
Within Buddhism, the real importance of the doctrine of karma and its fruits lies in the recognition of the urgency to put a stop to the whole process. Buddhism warns that the results of karma is one of the 4 incomprehensible subjects that are beyond all conceptualization and cannot be understood with logical thought or reason.
In Jainism, karma conveys a totally different meaning from that commonly understood in Hindu philosophy and Western civilization. Jain is one of the oldest Indian philosophies that completely separates body as matter from the soul as pure consciousness. In Jainism, karma is referred to as karmic dirt, and it consists of very subtle particles of matter that pervade the entire universe.
There was somebody I used to read a lot of their writing where this idea, and I think it was based off some science philosophy bullshit, but I don't think it had true scientific grounding. But the idea is that these ghost particles pierce through everything, that they're floating through all the different possible dimensions and through space and shit, and that each individual thought, feeling, or sensation we have could be the result of these particles passing through us, and that all the things that we think that we're in control of, or our own free will, or just the feelings we have, could be the result of external particles of one sort or another.
Yeah, I know you've brought that up before, and I think there's definitely like there's an idea there.
It challenges
right? Like
our
there's
autonomy.
There's always particles moving through us, and like protons, and or not. I think it's even lower than protons, like the neutrinos and shit that like constantly moving through us and around us, and
all the macaronis.
We're exchanging particles all the fucking time and shit. So
yeah, like what if our whole life was a chemical reaction, that we are really like the passenger in the roller coaster opposed to the engineer that made the ride? It's I don't believe in it, and I don't like it either. And that may be my bias, but I find it challenging and interesting to engage with the thought of like that we could be the passenger, you know?
You know, I wonder if that's one of those things where, like, you know, when there's a full moon and, like, people are acting all crazy, if it's, like, moon protons that are, like, affecting our brain chemistry, and that's why you feel like going out and committing crimes. It's all the moon particles.
Well, what if the chemical reaction only truly allowed freedom, true independent freedom of action at certain times? Like what if it was like, this is silly, but what if, imagine the formula was like so exact, like when you had 8+ hours of sleep and you hadn't been overexposed to a certain amount of sun in the last week, and you happen to have this level of vitamins and nutrients and like all these other like random conditions where would allowed like your brain to function in the way that it actually was freedom. But all the other times you weren't. You
spend a week in one of those isolation sensory deprivation chambers or something.
And then you're granted this brief window of like pure freedom. I don't know. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, cool idea.
So in Jainism, karma is referred to the karmic dirt,
which I think makes karma sound way cooler.
Yeah.
If you add dirt to the end of it, that makes it more fun.
Everything's cooler with a little dirt. But these karmas are attracted to the karmic field of the soul due to vibrations created by activities of the mind, speech, and body, as well as various mental dispositions. Hence, the karmas are the subtle matter surrounding the consciousness of the soul. When these two components, consciousness and karma, interact, we experience the life we know at the present.
The relationship between the soul and karma can be explained with the analogy of gold. Just as gold is always found mixed with impurities in its original state, Jainism holds that the soul is not pure at its origin, but is always impure and defiled like natural gold. One can exert effort and purify the gold, and similarly, Jainism states that the defiled soul can be purified by proper refining methodology. Karma either defiles the soul further or refines it to a cleaner state, and this affects future rebirths.
This is basically original sin.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Yeah. Jainism is transtheistic, meaning not theistic or atheistic, but beyond them. And I really like this term. I think this was our first time coming across this, the idea that it is beyond any form of belief in religion or non-religion.
Yeah.
Therefore, karma operates as a self-sustaining mechanism as natural universal law without any need of an external entity to manage them. Jainism advocates that the soul attracts karmic matter even with the thoughts and not just with the actions. Thus, to even think evil of someone would endure an increment in bad karmas, which all goes back to intention.
So if we look at the fundamental pieces of Jainism, we have these 8 karmas, which function as a blueprint for many of the modern interpretations of karma today. So the 8 karmas. There are 8 types of karma in Jainism which attach a soul to the cycle of birth and death.
Number 1, knowledge obstructing. Like a veil prevents a face and its features from being seen, this karma prevents the soul from knowing an object along with details about that object. This karma obstructs the soul from realizing its essential quality of knowledge. In its absence, a soul is omniscient. These are the 5 subtypes of this karma, which prevent the 5 types of knowledge: sensory knowledge, articulate knowledge, clairvoyance, telepathy, and omniscience.
2. Perception obstructing. Like a gatekeeper prevents the sight of the king, this karma prevents an object from being perceived, hiding it. This karma obstructs the soul from realizing its essential quality of perception. In its absence, a soul completely perceives all substances in the universe. There are 9 subtypes of this karma. 4 of these prevent the 4 types of perception: visual and non-visual perception, clairvoyant perception, and omniscient perception. The other 5 subtypes induce 5 kinds of sleep, causing a reduction in consciousness: light sleep, deep sleep, drowsiness, heavy drowsiness, and sleepwalking.
What I'm picking up so far is these are almost like the sum total of anything, of any negative force we could have.
Yeah, it's like unlocking parts of yourself. Like once you free yourself of this type of karma, if you can free yourself of the perception obstructing karma, then you can perceive all substances in the universe. But because there's so many different types of it.
This kind of goes back. I love the poetic language. I'm kind of a sucker for this. But what I appreciate about them, though, is if you realize these things in yourself, you can try to prevent them. I don't know. 3, sensation producing. Like licking honey from a sword gives a sweet taste but cuts the tongue. This karma makes the soul experience pleasure and pain. The soul's bliss is continuously disturbed by experiences of external sensual pleasure and pain. In the absence of this karma, the soul experiences undisturbed bliss. There are 2 subtypes of this karma: pleasure producing and pain producing.
The 4th, deluding. Like a bee becomes infatuated with the smell of a flower and is attracted to it, this karma attracts the soul to the objects that it considers favorable while repelling it from objects it considers unfavorable. It creates a delusion in the soul that external objects can affect it. This karma obstructs the soul's essential quality of happiness and prevents the soul from finding pure happiness in itself.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
I'm getting real yin-yang vibes, the whole action-reaction.
Yeah.
It seems like, even from a philosophical perspective, most of the ideas are displayed with their counterbalance. I think that's kind of like, imagine reading a modern philosophy paper where everything had to have like the opposite, the shadow. I don't know. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
5, lifespan determining. Like a prisoner remains trapped by iron chains around his legs, hands, etc. This karma keeps the soul trapped in particular life or birth. 6,
body producing. Like a painter creates various pictures and gives them various names, this karma gives souls various types of bodies that are classified based on various attributes. It is this karma which determines the body of a living organism into which the soul must enter. 7, status determining. Like a potter makes short and tall pots, this karma bestows a low or high social status on the body of soul. It creates social inequalities, and in its absence, all souls are equal. There are 2 subtypes of this karma: high status and low status. 8, power obstructing. Like a treasurer obstructs a king from spending his wealth, this karma prevents the soul from using its innate power for acts of charity, profit, enjoyment, repeated enjoyment, and willpower. It obstructs and prevents the soul's essential quality or of infinite power from manifesting. In its absence, a soul has infinite power.
So that's the IRS, huh?
Yeah.
So these 8 karmas from Jainism are some of the oldest interpretations of karma. Now let's look at some of the newer.
Falun Gong is a New Age religion from the early 1990s, and it was started in New York. It differs from Buddhism in its definition of the term karma, in that it was taken not as a process of award and punishment, but as an exclusively negative term. The Chinese term for virtue is reserved for what might otherwise be termed good karma in Buddhism. Karma is understood as the source of all suffering, what Buddhism might refer to as bad karma. According to Li Hongji, the founder of Falun Gong, quote, "A person has done bad things over his many lifetimes, and for people this results in misfortune, or for its cultivators, its karmic obstacles. So there's birth, aging, sickness, and death. This is ordinary karma."
Falun Gong also teaches a cycle of rebirth due to the accumulation of karma. This is a negative black substance that accumulates in other dimensions lifetime after lifetime. By doing bad deeds and thinking bad thoughts, Falun Gong states that karma is the reason for suffering and what ultimately blocks people from the truth of the universe and attaining enlightenment. At the same time, karma is also the cause of one's continued rebirth and suffering. Now, I would imagine the 8 karmas of Jainism and how Buddhism looks at karma traditionally as a more traditional or like respected version of karma.
Yeah, it's like a lot more of a balanced system, and it's a lot more broadly accepted.
Yeah. And then this newer version of the Falun Gong in the 1990s in New York brings up the idea of karma as purely the negative.
Yeah.
That what's holding us back and keeping us attached to these future cycles of life because we have too much karma, the substance that's clinging to us due to our bad thoughts and actions.
Yeah.
I like that though. I like negative versions of the same idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like Buddhism extremist.
Yeah,
if you think about it that way, it's like we stated earlier, it's like part of the Buddhism philosophy is like the urgency of like this is a priority. You need to shed the bad karma. But in this, it's like there is no good karma. There is virtue, there is merit, but karma itself is bad. You need to shed it all, and it's this black inky substance from another dimension.
Well, what is it? Is it black matter?
Dark matter?
Yeah, dark. It's like the dark matter of our soul.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just taking up space even though we can't see it.
Yeah.
According to its founder, quote, "Human beings all fell here from the many dimensions of the universe. They no longer met the requirements of the Fa or the standard at their given levels in the universe, and thus had to drop down. Just as we have said before, the heavier one's mortal attachments, the further down one drops, with the descent continuing until one arrives at the state of ordinary human beings."
He says that in the eyes of higher beings, the purpose of human life is not merely to be human, but to awaken quickly on earth, a setting of delusion, and return. Quote, "That is what they really have in mind. They are opening a door for you. Those who fall and return will have no choice but to reincarnate, with this continuing until they amass a huge amount of karma and are destroyed." End quote.
Falun Gong has an apparent opposition to its practitioners taking medicine when ill. They are missing an opportunity to work off karma by allowing an illness to run its course.
Because suffering depletes karma, of course.
Right. Or to fight off the illness through cultivation. Li himself states that he is not forbidding practitioners from taking medicine, maintaining that, quote, "What I'm doing is telling people the relationship between practicing cultivation and medicine taking."
And it was at this point that Trashcats knew they fucked up. So, while editing this episode, I stumbled upon some additional information that I thought we should include. I should have caught it with the whole not taking the meds thing, because that's typical cult behavior to discourage followers from taking medication or seeking psychologists or whatever. But after recording, I did some additional research into Falun Gong, and despite being a religious organization, I really liked some of their ideas, but we were quite disappointed by what we found. So this is a quick aside, but outside of the central religious group, Falun Gong administers a variety of outreach organizations in the United States and elsewhere, including the dance troupe Shen Yun, which has worldwide acclaim. They tour all over the country, and they're also known for their views against the Chinese Communist Party, which is one thing, but they are also known for their anti-evolution stance. They additionally operate the Epoch Media Group, which is known for its subsidiaries, and the New Tang Dynasty Television, and most importantly, the Epoch Times newspaper. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's been gaining popularity the last few years. This newspaper, the Epoch Times, is noted as a politically far-right media entity that has received significant attention in the United States for promoting conspiracy theories such as QAnon and anti-vaccine misinformation, as well as producing advertisements for the U.S. President Donald Trump. Both the dance troupe and the Epoch Times operate as extensions of Falun Gong, used to promote Falun Gong and Li Hongji's teachings, their leader. It feels a bit strange for a religious group founded in karma to have such strong political ideation, but this all goes back to Li's anger towards the Chinese Communist Party, and he chose to support Donald Trump so fervently in 2015 after Trump descended the golden escalator to announce his presidential candidacy, proclaiming that he, quote, beat China all the time. In Trump, Falun Gong saw more than an ally, it saw a savior. As former Epoch Times editor told NBC News, the group's leader, quote, believes that Trump was sent by heaven to destroy the Communist Party, end quote. So I guess just keep in mind that Falun Gong is not just a trash religion, but also a trash political advocate. But with that said, so is every religion. And interesting ideas and concepts shouldn't be ignored just because they come from bad places. They should be engaged and challenged. Real quick, so Falun Gong, the karma, is the black matter of our soul. It's what's holding us back. It's the result of all of our negative actions and thoughts. But suffering depletes it.
Yeah.
Suffering is like the acid that can absolve you from your bad karma.
Yeah.
I actually like that a lot.
I figured you would.
Because there's a remedy. There's not often a direct... I mean, the idea of good karma, I guess counteracting bad is not unique, but I don't know, that the idea that there's something that directly relieves it opposed to the counteracting, I feel like it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm. I feel, I mentioned it when we were putting notes together, but I feel like anything that says like suffering is good for you or the suffering is the right thing to do, I feel like that's a very Stephen.
I love
heavy.
Suffering.
Yeah.
It's so near and dear to my heart. All the scars will make us better. I love the idea of scar tissue literally making your skin thicker, that the cancers, the deer, the horns. I love shit like that because I hate the, like the wrestler quotes on the gym walls, like the pain is weakness leaving the body. I hate it in that idea, but I love it in the...
Because it doesn't sound brutal enough.
Well, I hate it because pain is weakness leaving the body, that it is leaving us and we become less weak. I like the idea that we amass the pain, that we become the scars, but that actually makes us stronger. Not that we are having negative scars or like weakness removed from us, but that we are bearing that pain and it makes us better.
You're not losing weakness, you're gaining strength.
You're gaining, in a way, you're gaining weaknesses. You're gaining vulnerability, but that adds to the resolve, or even if there's more of you that is scars, there's still more of you to bear more scars.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I did want to take a quick dip into Taoism. It's a lot of it's kind of similar to what we were talking about, but I thought this was neat. In Taoism, they follow karma in similar fashion to Buddhism and Hinduism, but every deed is tracked by deities and spirits. So supernatural beings are just keeping track of everyone's karma and assigning their fate. And appropriate rewards or retributions follow karma, just like shadows follow a person. And I like the idea that like there's these like mythical deities and monsters just like following, you know, around and just keeping an eye on people and just writing it down.
Yeah, marking
like
off your
Timmy didn't share a sandwich at school today. Fucking.
It feels like almost like Death Note-y or like anime-y or like I can like picture Japanese art of like demons keeping the score of you know, your life's actions.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I definitely picture there's an anime about this for sure.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
One of the significant controversies with karma doctrine is whether it implies destiny and its implications on free will.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of mentioned that earlier. You had talked about destiny, like can you control your free will based on your own actions, and like can you budget into different, you know, directions? Can you budget into, I don't know, can you control it at all? And it's like if your karma is, I think it's pretty open to the idea of free will. You still get to choose whether you accumulate karma. Yeah,
but depending on, I think, which like sect or interpretation of karma, if you believed in it super literal, or like it is a chemical reaction or like a direct equal and opposite reaction. If I steal basketball from this dude, am I literally going to get a basketball, or is it more abstracted? If I steal, am I also going to lose shit later in life? Like the more literal your interpretation gets, the less room for freedom I think there would be.
Yeah.
So it definitely challenges the idea of free will, and anything that touches on free will affects what destiny or fate would look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of those, you know, I think we're both on the record of like saying fate's bullshit. And yeah, I think there are
have more of a, I feel like the modern scientific look on what free will is. Like I know we've gone down this before, but that if all things are equal and the hill is perfectly calculated, if you drop the rock on the certain angle at the certain rate of speed, it's always going to land at the same point, and that there's maybe less control as the rock to control your path.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you have part of that.
It's like there are the natural laws that we're restricted to, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that we don't have free will. Yeah, that's right. We had said before, you were like, but those are the laws that we're stuck. Like that means that we don't have fully free.
Yeah, but where I fall ultimately is complete free will, even if I'm wrong. That's kind of my demonstration that free will is true, because I'm choosing to believe in it, regardless of if it's wrong or not. I don't think.
I'm pretty sure that's just called ignorance.
But I feel like
I know what you mean. It's just the definition you gave.
Well, it's the same idea. Like even if God was real, I still wouldn't believe in him. The idea that even if I know realistically there's situations you could be put in a jail cell, you can be medically sedated and put in a cushioned room in a straitjacket, and there literally is no way you could do anything except maybe control your breathing. You don't even have the option or means to kill yourself. But I refuse to, and I know that's so literal, but I refuse to believe there's a world where I have no choice, that my will means nothing. Right. And I know that's ignorant to an extent, because I know there's so many situations, even in my own life, that I can look back that my free will was very altered. But I refuse to believe, I refuse to believe we don't always have a choice, even if the choices are shitty.
Yeah.
I couldn't allow something such as karma to interfere with what choice I decide to take.
You could definitely make the argument that someone else sedating you and putting you in a straitjacket in a padded room. That's them exerting their free will to undermine yours or to control yours. And it's not that you don't have that free will. They've taken away your power to enact your free will.
They've used their free will to steal your agency.
Yeah.
But I think it's something deeper than that. Even if you couldn't control your breathing, you're on a fucking ventilator. Even if my free will is just my thoughts, my intention.
Yeah.
And that might be very, like, insignificant. Maybe my free will is pretty insignificant. I mean, it often is. Most of our life choices are pretty insignificant. We're not able to change or affect much. But even if my free will has to be limited to my thoughts, feelings, and intentions, I choose for that to be enough, because without that, then there's just no fucking point.
Yeah,
I never understand.
No, I agree with that. I think that's
never
well stated, too.
understand the super smart people, like the Sean Carrolls or Sam Harris, whatever. Like, these people that are so fucking smart, and they actually understand these concepts far deeper than I ever probably will. But they actively preach this lack of free will while living like a person who only believes in free will. I always find that fascinating. It's always the people that they're smart in such a way that they can, I don't know, fully understand it, but then they live as if it's not true. And I think there's an inconsistency there, and I can never quite put my finger on what it is, but there's something not congruent.
I think when people are considering that, they're thinking more of like a literal, like, there's so many things that are aimed to control your advertisements is a good example. Like, all the advertisements, whether it's billboards or your, ads on a website or your phone, or like before a podcast or before, anything, there's always ads on something. And those are made to, at least insert an idea into your head. Whether it's controlling or not is, up to the person who's receiving it. But I think that when people consider that, or like laws that are put in place, it's like, you don't have free will because you have to adhere to these laws. And I think there are people that consider those things, and it's like against your free will. And it's like, that's not what that is. You can absolutely go commit crimes. You can absolutely, I think the laws of nature thing is the one that, like, I mean, that's what you have mad scientists for, right? Like, they're trying to build time machines and break physics laws and shit. But I don't know. I agree with you, though. I think having the intent, that is, while insignificant on a grander scale or insignificant to other people, keeping that for yourself is the utmost importance. I think that's, feeling like you have a choice in life. And I say it all the time, but like the dirtball theory, that we're all just on a big fucking hot rock full of mud and water that is floating through space, that gives so much more meaning to my actions. It makes me feel like my will is more free, that each decision I make is my own. And that, the karma that I build would be, my own. So that's like where the taking on the sins of your ancestors thing, or taking on the karma of your ancestors thing. I don't like that one, mostly because it's like, I had nothing to do with them. I don't know them. I feel like I like the idea that this is my own shit that I'm doing. It's based on me and my actions, thoughts, and intentions.
Absolutely.
So here's some cool stuff. If we look at karma through the lens of psychoanalysis, Carl Jung once opined on unresolved emotions and the synchronicity of karma. Quote, "When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate."
Inner situation. So things that take place in our subconscious feel like they're fate, opposed to being an action or decision of our own.
Yeah. And I think, I don't think this was the intention of this quote at all, but I think that, like, when I hear that, I think of like deja vu, stuff like that, where it's like something that's, or like I had a dream about, you have a dream about something and like something happens in real life and it's like, it's something that's like in the recess of your mind and in that moment you remember and it's like, it feels like it's meant to be. Mm-hmm. Or even like the whole, like you are talking about something with somebody and then you see a video about it or you see an ad about it on your phone. I think that's the feeling I get from that, is like, it's, at least that's the purpose I get from that. That I translate it to, I guess, in my head, of like when things, and things can seem like, what is it? Everything's fate in hindsight kind of thing. Like if you look at it from the perspective of something like that, it seems like fate. But like if you're not conscious of it beforehand and it just kind of springs to your conscious, I don't know. That's how I read that.
I will edit that to sound better.
You don't have to. I think I tried, and you do what you can with it. I was just babbling off I thought I had a coherent thing. I'm sorry.
From the psychological perspective, emotions create the impetus for our motivations. Emotions are internal, and pretty much everything they kick off is too, but our actions are not. They take place on the outside of our skin, and our actions have consequences. Those consequences provide feedback, which either stops or reinforces those actions. Thus, behavior in the moment is not just something that can relieve anxiety, but is something that can lead to greater long-term bliss.
The general consensus about behaving in a karma-aware way requires that we engage in actions that are not considered socially bad and have no adverse consequences for others. So really, when we talk about karma, we talk about engaging in pro-social behavior. Social and behavioral psychologists define pro-social behavior as behavior that involves a cost for those who engage in it and benefit for others. Karma-friendly behavior that leads to altruism is the result of the investment of energy and effort intelligent individuals make towards the world they want to inhabit.
Antisocial actions, or bad things done to others, is the karma itself. The action of being selfish or harming another is the consequence. And this is where we want to take a look at a couple case studies. So these are kind of fun.
Yeah.
The first one is the bank robber. The bank robber robs a bank because he is a bank robber. He makes off with the score of a lifetime, and he spends the remaining duration of his life on a tropical island, dying of old age on a beach. Where is the karma? It could be said that the action of robbing the bank itself is the karma, that the suffering that led to the incident itself is the result, or that the suffering endured having to live with his actions is the karma, being the anxiety or fear of being caught, or merely the reinforcement of selfish behavior, the punishment of having successfully robbed the bank being a future reinforcement for the future selfish behavior, likely to result in other future suffering. Or maybe it's all bullshit and the dude dies happy and drunk on Mai Tais. I lean towards the latter, but I really like the idea that the action itself can be the karma, regardless of what the results were. The effect making a antisocial, negative, whatever you want to call it, choice can actually be the harm we do to ourselves.
Yeah, I do. I like the idea that like the leading, like afterward, the anxiety, all the shit that you have afterward, like all the like thinking that someone's gonna catch you or you're gonna be found out, like that being the suffering that you endure for it. Because that, I mean, not for everybody, obviously. We have fucking wild people out there that don't.
The psychopath exception. Yeah.
But,
guilt.
When, let's say, like, I mean, the bank robber robs a bank because he's a bank robber. But the idea that, like,
how did he become the bank robber?
Yeah, how did he become the bank robber? Is this his first? Is that, like, his job, his occupation? He does it all the time? Or it's like he has suffered for very long and he needed the money for something. Well, I guess if he needed the money for something, he'd spend it on that instead of living the rest of his life on a tropical island. Also, I don't think you can get that kind of money from robbing a bank, but
it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It's the guys that make real money are the guys that hit 30 to 50 banks a year, and they always get caught like 5 years in.
30 to 50 banks a year.
Like in LA during the late 90s, early 2000s, I think on average it was 5 banks a day were getting robbed.
Jesus, just in LA?
Yeah, it was like insane. It was all these small time robberies, but they'd get like $1,000 to $10,000 or whatever. And now there's still like a problem with that in some areas, but you can't get away with robbing banks, and you can't rob enough of them to get real money. So
one of my favorite bank robbing stories, the most recent bank robbing that I ever heard of. This is very fun and you'll enjoy it. It was a bank in Florida, and the guy that robbed the bank was found like a block down the street walking away. He was on foot, not running, walking. He was wearing flip-flops, walking away, and he had the money just in a bag in his hand. It was like immediately he got caught.
See, that doesn't even sound funny to me, because I'm pretty sure like more than half of bank robberies pretty much end that way, because most robberies are like strung out mentally ill people, and they don't get 5 blocks away. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
I don't know like what percentage of people are actually caught that close just walking away, but that seems to be what happens a lot.
It's not all fucking Ocean's 11 out here.
Yeah,
sometimes it's just fucking Willy Bubba and his fucking his grocery bag full of money.
All right, case study 2. Here's the edgy one. Happy Hitler. Could Hitler ever truly be happy despite his low karma points?
Now, are we talking about could he have been happy at a point that changed his course of actions through his life? Or
no, that's nonsense. He's lived a life full of what would be considered negative karma. He's hurt all these people. Not Jainism karma, or not
Falun Gong.
Yeah, not that karma, but the idea of like he's hurt other people, he has bad karma. He's killed millions of people. After that, is there a way for someone that does that much wrong to ever feel right?
He's going to spend a few lifetimes sorting that shit out.
How many lifetimes? I'd say at least one for each person he killed, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the exchange rate?
I mean, you would think so.
I mean, I could see the mental illness loophole getting someone who does that much wrong shit out of the effect of that action on themselves. But it's pretty rare you see someone who is constantly engaging in heinous actions that feels happy, fulfilled, purposeful, whatever.
Now, in the Falun Gong version of it, if you accumulate too much karma, your soul's destroyed.
But I got the question more I'm trying to get at is, can someone who does terrible things be happy?
I mean, I think being happy is different than karma, I guess.
That's true. That's a little naive of me, but I think that's kind of more the root of the question.
Yeah.
Too.
So be happy, sure. I mean, we just said like there are the fucking sociopaths that can do bad things. They can do things that harm people and not feel the emotion, the negative emotion behind it. But the karma thing, I mean, if you're accruing karma for wrongdoing, for doing bad deeds, then no, I mean, I guess that's like I said, that's one of those cases where he's fighting so hard against it that he's made his path to the gods much, much harder. His path to break the cycle.
Is there a karmic game over? Like, is there ever a point where you can't come back? Like, I think I could see there definitely be an argument if you killed 10 million plus people, there's no way to even out that karma.
Right.
Some wrongs go too far to counteract, certainly within one lifetime. But even if he had an infinite amount, I don't know how you balance the scales of karma on ending an existence.
I don't know, man.
Would you have to make 10 million babies? You have to.
Nick Cannon's out here doing the work.
What? Nick Cannon?
Yeah, he's got like a bunch of kids. He's got like 12 kids or some bullshit. He's about to have a TV
super anti-Semitic too?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he's been saying all kinds of racist shit.
I wouldn't be super surprised.
I've never liked him.
Yeah, not really either.
Why'd you bring him up now?
No, just because you said something about making a bunch of babies, and he's about to drop a TV
Fired
show
over
called
anti-Semitic comics. Nick Cannon once Wild and Out. Yeah.
That tracks. Yeah.
It all started with each one of his kids is from a different mom too.
Yeah,
right?
it's like I think
wild.
he might have like two with a couple of them, but yeah, he's about to have a new TV show drop that's like, who's gonna have my baby kind of shit, and it's like the contest is basically like, if you win, Nick Cannon's gonna put a baby in you.
Quote, we give so much power to theys, and theys turn into Illuminati, Zionists, and Rothschilds.
Oh, Jesus.
Dude, that's what I thought. He's like full out there, man.
Yeah, he's full fucked.
So many people got exposed this year with the craziness. Oh my God, dude.
I kind of enjoy it, though. It's a good thing, you know.
Bad karma coming his way, for sure. What are our final thoughts? Do you want to go first or should I?
You go first.
All right. So, final score. Karma is not a zero-sum game. It is not a cosmic justice scale, although I like the idea of demons keeping score. It's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the consequences of actions and reactions. It's relief and it is suffering. Every heaven and hell is inside of us, and we are our own karma. All that bullshit. More so, I think the idea of karma deludes us into thinking our actions matter. That the mere things we do or intentions we have inherent meaning and consequences when they often never do. I think karma kind of ignores chaos or apathy or meaningless, or it makes everything feel important. And while I like the idea that maybe our karma could be a factor in free will, I think more the idea karma points to fate and destiny. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that part of it. I think out of all of the possible silly supernatural beliefs, I think karma is one of the least terrible.
Yeah.
It's very childish and romantic. It has the naivete of an amnesiac. It's only appealing if you're willing to forget all the selfish shit we do each day. If we ignore all the shit we didn't do for each other, good being selflessness, bad being ego, I think the only way you could embrace karma is if you have that amnesia, that naive amnesia to forget all the things we did and didn't do. The cosmic scales of justice will never balance. There is no equal and opposite reaction, and there's enough random chaos and bad intentions that the carnival games will always be rigged. If you want good karma, I think you have to take action for yourself. No gods, no masters, and certainly no magic justice. Karma's fun, and it's silly, but it doesn't fly, just like a penguin.
Karma is like a penguin.
Karma penguins.
It's the episode title now.
I think it will happen.
I found a quote. I think you even might have put this in here. But I like the quote. It's from a new age spiritualistic type that I'm not really into that. But the name is I.K. Taimni. I believe is how that's pronounced.
Sounds skip.
Yeah. The quote is, "Karma is nothing but the law of cause and effect, operating in the realm of human life and bringing about adjustments between an individual and other individuals whom he is affected by his actions, emotions, and thoughts." And I really think that boils down a lot to the don't be a dick. Just, it's just a good motif. It's a good moral in life. Your actions, regardless of intentions, affect other people. And even if your intentions are pure and good, you can still cause harm for other people. I think that the idea of karma is innately good. I think the idea of it's one of those, the garden can be pretty without there being fairies in it kind of thing of it's a good idea on its own to just praise good behavior. We should be good for the sake of being good. You shouldn't have to be good because there's this karmic dirt that's attached to your soul that's preventing you from being the all being that you're supposed to be. So I think inherently it's got good philosophy, but I think even the intention there is good, but the action itself is less good. Worse. That's the word.
It feels more grand than that. If I steal from someone, it feels like karma's perspective would be that action deserves a response. Whether it's answered directly or not, that my action deserves consequences, that what I did matters. When I think that's pretty bold for a principle to state that anything I did had meaning and is deserving of retribution or reward.
Well, I think the main purpose of karma, the main purpose of a lot of religion to the individual, I think strikes with grieving. So the idea that you stole from someone, so say someone steals from you, and
how dare they?
Exactly. Number
one. They
one.
deserve something bad to happen.
Right. So if they were to, you can take action upon them, or you can persist that maybe, whatever, they'll get theirs. I don't have time for this. And by doing that, that makes you feel a little bit, lets you take that weight off of your shoulders. And that's where karma can help you grieve the loss of a thing.
I'm suddenly realizing from the perspective of a victim, karma is actually disgusting. Oh my God, that infuriated me just to hear. The idea of
I think that's
someone
usually
takes from me and I give it up to the magical justice system.
Yeah.
Is terribly disgusting.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's where it's mostly used is when people talk about when, especially at least in Western culture, is karma's only ever brought up when someone's gonna, get their just desserts for doing something stupid or bad. And it's they'll get theirs. Someone will, hurt them, or they'll get what's coming to them kind of thing.
Do you relate to this, the idea that there's often a person in the family who's always the peacekeeper?
Oh, for sure. There's one person at least that's...
Yeah, they're willing to overlook people's wrongs or just do whatever it takes to keep everybody at peace. Oh, don't get angry at that. They just, whatever.
Yeah.
They're the
someone stole something from you. It's well, obviously they needed it more than you do. And, just you try to think the positive thoughts and move forward.
Karma is the pathetic, philosophical peacekeeper. It is a beg for peace, that it all will balance, that it all will work, that you don't need to take any more action.
Mm-hmm.
That it is that the bank robber already got their suffering for having made the action. It takes away. It feels like it takes away agency to me.
I feel like it takes away agency, but also I think it's the perspective that you look at it. Because while it can take away agency, you can also say that it takes away the weight of worrying about that. It takes away the weight of retribution. Yeah. So instead of you feeling like you need to enact vengeance, you can allow yourself to recognize that if you fully believe in karma as a universal law, that they will pay for those consequences.
And that's the childish naivete. I think that's a beautiful. That is,
I think that's
awesome.
That's with any religion or anything spiritual thing like that.
Yeah.
When you put you put faith into anything, that's what you get.
Yeah, but it's like begging for peace. Like, isn't retribution? Somebody kills your fucking family. Aren't you supposed to have to hold the weight of retribution? Aren't you supposed to have to wrestle with being John Wick or not? Like, the idea of using something like karma to zen your way through it, it seems like an escapism.
It is.
It's amnesia.
Is that inherently bad?
I think it is. I think it's
let me try to quote one of our favorite movies, Shutter Island. Is it better to die as a God damn it, what was it? Is it better to die of a good man than live as a monster?
I don't think that quote's relevant.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the way that, like, is it better if someone can find peace in a situation that would be otherwise life destroying? If someone can find peace through that, does it fucking matter what method they choose? If it's not hurting anyone else, if it's just to them, and they can find an internal method and thought process that brings them to a place where they can continue to live their life as a regular person, is that inherently bad?
Yes.
I disagree.
I think it's fine. Well, you saying that is the exact same as saying religion is fine for someone. It's not bad on a micro level. Like, whatever it takes for them to have peace is good. Somebody goes, they're sexually harmed and they have a weird coping mechanism. Like,
but also in this way, someone's not voting a certain way based on their belief in karma.
I would disagree. I would say that's from our perspective because we don't know people that believe in karma.
Yeah, right? True.
But if we were in a society where everyone believed in karma and they all vote for fucking dictators because they're not worried about it the same way. That's a cheap example, but you know what I mean.
Well, let me ask you this then. Without the karma, in that same situation, let's say someone there in the hypothetical that you gave where someone slaughters your family and then now you're faced with this you're faced with this thing for yourself. And forgiveness. If it's just a thing, it's for you. And it's so that you can continue. It's like the struggle is, do you let shut in all the fucking doors and,
It's a different question, but I don't think you should ever forgive someone if you find unforgivable things. If you
find a thought process in your head that allows you to forgive, is that not having a faith in something? Would a faith in yourself then be?
I would say it's delusion, right?
But
depending on what you tricked yourself into believing, even if it's what you had to do to get through the day, it doesn't mean it's a good thing, right?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's have to be tricking yourself into believing something. It's just having faith in yourself that I can be stronger than this. I can move on from that. Faith in yourself is still faith.
We're creeping though from our argument, like a mother who forgives their son's murderer. I don't think it's a good thing most of the time. There's times where, like, I think it can be, where time passes and you work your way through it. And I think there's times that can be done in a healthy way. But when there's cases where, like, the person just killed your son like a week ago, and there's like the type of mom that's on the news, like, immediately saying they forgive him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean, and it does seem
it's like that's whack as fuck.
It does seem like that's a lot, but in that way, like, that particular circumstance can be, I mean, there's so many variables.
Trauma response.
And they can say, I forgive you, but then do they mean it?
Sure.
I think, but the real internal forgiveness, that's for no one other than yourself. You're not helping that person by saying, I forgive you. You're helping yourself.
This line of inquiry, though, is kind of interesting because I think inadvertently we're relating karma more to forgiveness and acceptance than action or reaction, which I don't think is like a necessarily inaccurate interpretation. I find that kind of a interesting parallel.
Mm-hmm.
But I think having further discussion on forgiveness itself would be pretty interesting.
There we go. We got our next research one.
Putting it on the list.
Yeah.
We got a good list of some wacky shit. I'm very excited for Is Your Penis Bigger Than Jesus?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. It's going to be a nice, fun one. We'll with the podcast episode, the image should be a like
Jesus's penis.
Yeah, I was going to say
crucified. It's funny because it's a research episode.
Yeah, because we spent a lot of time on it. I would like to end with one more quote.
Yeah.
This is from our good friend Ricky LaFleur from the Sunnyvale Trailer Park. What comes around is all around.
God damn it. I think that's enough of the hippie bullshit. This was, I mean, I like karma. It's fun and garbage. This is a nice calming escape. But I think we should get back to the war and chaos that we're all so accustomed to.
You back to reality.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for listening, everybody. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at approaching-human.
Thanks, John. I give you +2 karma.
Make sure to check out your show page at Trashcats on Instagram for news and art from the show. Also, check out Facebook for the memes.
If you're super bored, you can get some negative, sticky karma by checking out my trash yard on Instagram at Skyzix, SKYZICX.
It's just dripping with karma.
We got some interesting episode ideas ahead. The Jesus penis is actually kind of a interesting topic we're going to play with, but we got some other cool stuff, so stick around and we'll give you karma points for it.
That's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Go fast, eat trash.